my air conditioner has been broken for about 2 weeks. So I am a little bit more dewy than I typically am in my videos, but it's okay because it's almost like I'm in Australia in the summertime. And since I said Australia, it's time to talk about Sean Byrne's Dangerous Animals, which was just released this last week. So I'll be completely honest and say that I had some reservations about seeing this movie. I recently watched The Loved Ones for the first time, which is another Sean Byrne movie, and I sort of struggled with it. I really enjoyed it. It was a very well done movie, but the subject matter, if you've seen it, was very heavy and may have just been a little too much for me in the moment that I was watching it. But I left that viewing experience feeling kind of uneasy, and more so in a way that I'm not too fond of. I don't know. It was a lot. It was a heavy movie for me. So when I realized that this one was also directed by him, and just knowing the general synopsis of it, uh, yeah, but I went ahead and I went to see it anyway, and let me tell you, I am so glad that I did. Like I said, this one is directed by Sean Byrne, who also did The Loved Ones as well as The Devil's Candy. I saw The Devil's Candy maybe 5 or 6 years ago, and I don't remember too much about it, so that one might be due for a rewatch. So this one stars Hassie Harrison, Jai Courtney, and Josh Houston. Zephyr, a savvy and free-spirited surfer, is abducted by a shark-obsessed serial killer and held captive on his boat. She must figure out how to escape before he carries out a ritualistic feeding to the sharks below. This is a pretty straightforward plot line. I think anyone who watched the trailer would get generally this story. There's a few more things about it that I'll talk about in spoilers, but overall, that is the main thing. This movie was filmed in Sydney, Australia, so you get really nice shots of the city and the beach, as well as a lot of like really beautiful open water shots. So there's definitely an overarching theme around predators and prey, both predators being human predators, like the serial killer in the movie, as well as sharks play a huge role in this movie. There's also themes around kind of man's relationship to the earth and to the ocean, and a lot of stuff too about like resilience and strength and overcoming obstacles, specifically in the main character Zephyr. There were some things about this movie that I found kind of cheesy, but I'll talk about that more in spoilers, because it has to do with something that's not explicitly stated in the trailer. But everything else I think was well done. I think that even though the plot was relatively straightforward, it wasn't something that I feel like I've seen before. There was a lot of nuance to it and a lot of very well executed cinematography. I'm not sure if the sharks were CGI. I mean, they had to be, right? Most likely. But the fact that I have to question that is probably a good sign. I think the sharks looked very real. Their presence felt very intense. So that was executed very well. The performances were excellent, especially the main character, the serial killer. Um, he is a really great combination of frightening and almost like charming and kind of funny. He just had some really great moments, and was portrayed very effectively. Cassie Harrison, who played Zephyr, was an excellent final girl. She was lovable, she was smart. There weren't parts in the movie where I was frustrated with her character. She really was someone that you rooted for, and I appreciated that. So, like I said, I was feeling a little nervous going into this one just because of how intense I felt watching The Loved Ones. This one, while it's definitely tense and there's a lot of moments where you worry about the main characters and, not sure what's going to happen next, it wasn't quite as brutal for me. I think that there was a good balance of like humor elements, of action sequences, right? So there was enough going on that I didn't feel like I was sitting too much with the violence in this movie. Um, There were a couple scenes that I think would be tough for some folks, just things that tend to get people more so than other things having to do with fingers. Um, so there's definitely some gore and there's definitely some tension, but it sort of balances well, I think. Very light use of jump scares as well. I can think of really only two times that something really startled me. So I will be talking spoilers in the next segment. So if you wanted to avoid spoilers, you can pause here and come back once you've seen Dangerous Animals in theaters. So while the plot itself, there's not really much of a spoiler. The spoiler that I was saving for this part is the romance that is kind of central to this movie. And I did find it a little bit cheesy at points. I am not a big romance person, but I did really appreciate the addition of the romance. I think it rounded the film out a lot more, and we got some more dynamics. I think this also really helped round out the resilience theme, where you have the main character, Zephyr, who she mentioned something about being in foster care, and she, in the beginning of the movie, is very like standoffish. She doesn't seem to want to connect um, out of fear, mostly, not because she's not interested. So having a love interest in the middle of this also amps up the tension, right? Because you kind of want to see how things work out for them. So that really rounded out, like I said, rounded out the movie. Some of the stuff about Zephyr being this kind of damaged girl felt a little cliche to me. I think, we've seen it before. But again, she was such an effective final girl in this movie that I kind of, by the end of the movie, I didn't really care. She just has a couple of pretty cheesy lines at the beginning. One thing I pay attention to a lot in horror movies, because I think it can really change things, at least for me, is the tone. And this one, while it's pretty heavy subject matter, right? It's a male serial killer who's abducting women and essentially, hoisting them up and into the ocean to watch and film them being eaten by sharks. And certain movies will do things, violence, in a way that is really hard to sit with, and this is no definitely is not easy to sit with, but I think the way that everyone is portrayed makes this a very effective movie for me. The initial victim that we see the first time we see someone getting eaten by the sharks, she's not portrayed as like dumb or weak. She's just a girl who ended up in this situation, and I liked the way that her and Zephyr sort of spoke to one another, and tried to help each other, even though it unfortunately didn't work out, and she ended up being eaten. Um, there was something kind of like serene about not her death in the moment, but afterwards you see her torso kind of floating in the ocean, and something about that made me feel a little bit something. I don't know. The way that the ocean is portrayed and that sharks are portrayed in this movie felt really unique to me. Usually, when you have shark genre movies, and I've seen a handful, I haven't seen too many, but usually when you have these movies, it's like one shark who somehow has the appetite to eat like 5 or 6 people in a short amount of time. And while it is really fun to view, you kind of have to suspend your disbelief a little bit. This one handled the shark part in a very realistic way. And they had to the serial killer has to sort of coax the sharks, right, by putting food in the water. And the sharks don't fully consume the first victim. Um, I'm getting really into detail, really into the woods on this one, but um, there was a lot that I think this movie just had a lot to say, and so I'm still kind of deciphering it, like as I'm speaking about it. One of my favorite things about this movie was one of the final scenes where our girl Zephyr is finally up in the mount herself, being lowered into the water, while her love interest Moses is tied up and stabbed and generally not having a good time. And she ends up falling into the water and has this moment with I believe it's a great white shark, where they sort of just view each other in the water, and the shark turns, and you see that I'm going to say she just because I'm identifying, I'm over identifying. But she has this big scar on her body, and I think it's adding to this theme of kind of resilience that is portrayed in Zephyr's character, but then also in this shark. They have this moment where, you know, it sort of highlights that the real villain, the real like violence here is not the sharks, but it is, the serial killer, right? And I don't know, that scene in particular made me so emotional. Um, it was just like very well done. And I really appreciated that take on the shark um, kind of subgenre. I don't believe I've seen that before. I was speaking with my fiance about how I'm starting to sort of shy away from the theme of male serial killer versus female victim. I think it can be done well, but sometimes it's just a bit much for me. And I notice as I grow and evolve, so to speak, as a horror fan in different stages of my life, like certain things appeal to me more so than other things. And so this particular type of movie, I've been feeling a little bit burnt out on. Um, but this movie handles it in a way that is very intentional, and I think it wasn't a deal breaker for me. And I'm not sure why exactly, but it was just effective. I don't know. Um, a lot of things were implied. There wasn't too much direct, hands-on violence, I guess, from the serial killer to, I keep forgetting his name, from him to Zephyr, right? So it's all very kind of indirect with this like third party of the sharks. And I can't be mad at the sharks, right? Because the sharks don't know what they're doing. I also liked the kind of use of the terms like hardened and soft. Like at one point, Bruce Tucker, that's his name. At one point, he says something to Zephyr about how Moses, the love interest, is soft, and that her and him are these like hardened, uh, predators or whatever. And so she says, like, I'm nothing like you. And then ultimately, it's her opening up to the idea of being with Moses that allows her to build the resolve she needs to bite off her own thumb in order to get out of the handcuffs. Um, so I don't know. I feel like maybe I'm reading way too much into this, and other people didn't get these like deep, overarching themes. But I don't know. This movie really gave me so much to think about. I think my only critique about this one, there is a lot of almost getting away and then getting caught again. And they talk about this with a metaphor, a fishing metaphor, about how fishermen love the marlin because it's really difficult to catch and it tries to get away. But once you have it on the hook, you have it no matter how hard it tries to fight. And so it's right. It's Zephyr and Tucker, but she gets away at least 5 times and then is recaptured. And there's one final one where she finally has killed Tucker, or is, mortally wounded him and shoved him into shark infested waters. And then her foot gets caught and she gets dragged into the water and then resurfaces like a couple minutes later. Could have done without that one. It just, at that point, we had already seen this like 5 times. Uh, and I don't know if it was completely necessary. But then you also get this really beautiful shot of once they finally defeat Tucker and he's in the water, and this great white with the scar like jumps out of the water majestically with him in her mouth. and it's very satisfying ending. So, if you haven't guessed it by how excessively I am blabbering about this movie, I rated this a 5 out of 5. I really liked this movie. It's my second 5 out of 5 of the year. The last one was Sinners. I don't know where I would rank the two movies, but they were both just so satisfying, so fun to watch in theaters. This one I will be thinking about probably for days. I This pulled me in and it's got a hold on me. I'm in the shark's jaw, so to speak, and I am very happy about it. I really liked this movie. I am buzzing. I am a buzz. So if you can't already tell, I will recommend folks go see this one. If you like shark movies, definitely go see it. It's definitely a different take, I think, on the shark movie, and it has a lot of respect for the shark, and I appreciate that. I think that is a really powerful direction to take this movie. And if you're afraid of sharks, perhaps this would be an interesting watch as well. Maybe it'll give you a new perspective on sharks. You never know. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Follow me on Instagram, Letterboxd, and TikTok. I've been trying to make a lot more short content on TikTok just for those of us who have a shorter attention span. So be sure to check that one out and stay tuned. Hopefully, I'll have a video up in the next couple weeks. Thanks. Bye.